Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. The Arab Spring has excited but also scared the Middle East's myriad Christian communities. While the erosion of sclerotic political systems has brought hope, as it has for the region's Muslim majorities, Christians have worried about the potential role of political Islam in post-dictatorship scenarios. Our guest today is Ignaz Youssef III Younan, who is the Syriac Catholic Patriarch of Antioch, and his church numbers around 175,000 people in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq and abroad. Thank you very much for being on the interview, Patriarch.
Thank you very much.
Of course, you have a lot of different Christian communities in Syria alone. You have Christians who are Arabs, Christians who are not Arabs, you have Maronites, Armenians, etc., etc. Can one really talk of a Christian identity there when we're in the context of this political trouble in Syria?
The Christians in Syria and what was called the Great Syria was mostly of Syriac descent, Maronite Syriac. But given that the Ottoman Empire was so vast, so we have had in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, many different Christian denominations, those who, for instance, fled from the Asia Minor into Syria and Lebanon for the past 100 years, especially after the genocide of the Armenians. And therefore, we can say all Christians, they are very, very much related, and they have the same faith, although in autonomous churches that go back to the first Christian community.
What's the mood in your community about the Syrian revolt? How worried are people about it?
I think I am not taking a side in that popular movement, but I think there is a real fear for all Christians, not only my community, all Christians, but because change doesn't mean always for the best. And in this case, we fear that a state of chaos would follow, and religious confessional confrontation will have place, and that will not going to benefit anyone, neither the majority or other minorities.
I want to put a quote to you. This was said by the head of the Syriac Orthodox Church, not the Catholic Church, but the Orthodox Church in the US, Archbishop Cyril Karim. This was quoted in a Bloomberg story, and he says, history has proven to us that Christians have always had more secure lives, better treatment by people who may be looked on as dictators, like Saddam Hussein. Would you go as far as he did and say that the Syriac Christians would be better off with a dictator than in a democratic Syria?
Christians have the vocation to witness to their faith, gospel of peace and love in all times, with all regimes, political regimes. But of course, a kind of stability imposed by a kind of, let's say, dictatorship will be better for a Christian as that to stay in their lands, that to share with other segments of the population what we call their destiny, to work in to what we can say reform, to go ahead with reasonable development of social, political, let's say, life. And therefore, it's very sad to say that it was the truth. But Christians doesn't side with any dictatorship regime, rather with the best of the regimes that could promise better life for all in the context, social political context of the region.
Are you, surely there's a danger though that by being so cautious towards this revolt that you might be freezing your community out of a future Syria, that you're not really able to shape what's going on because you're sort of standing back?
I think it's, we have to say that with a language that is not politically correct, that as long as we don't have the separation between church and state, between religion and politics, of course, a situation of chaos would harm mostly the most vulnerable segment of the population, and Christians are among those vulnerable.
Are you saying that based on previous experience in the Middle East, in Iraq, I would imagine, particularly?
Exactly.
What about the fear specifically of the Muslim Brotherhood? You've talked about this in previous media interviews. Do you really worry about political Islam?
Of course, since they are following this goal of imposing the Islamic law, it doesn't inspire any let's say, any trust in those who do not share their religion.
Except that observers in Europe, at least, seem to look at the Egyptian and Tunisian revolts as secular, fairly, well, mostly secular democratic movements that were not used by the political Islamic forces. You don't share that analysis? You think that it's...
No, it looks like that, but that's not the truth. As long as they don't say that in Islam, state and religion in public life, in the civil life, has to be separated, that all citizens have the same rights, it doesn't really help other minorities to be confident in the future.
You've spoken about a double language used by some Muslim religious leaders, one publicly supporting Christians and another one for their own congregations. Is that a big issue for you?
I don't deny that among our Muslim brethren, you have kind of people, they are open, they are tolerant, but the fear is there that they will be overwhelmed by the great majority of mostly fanatic. They think that they are called to spread one nation and one religion, and therefore we have to look most better to an evolution than a violent revolution. And we ask the European Union, the United States, Russia, China to help us resolve what we call the Israelo-Palestinian problem crisis that, you know, that doesn't give any motivation to those fanatics to keep spreading the terrorism around them.
Do you think Europe and the United States have been too fast then in supporting the opposition movements in the Middle East? Should they have been more for a kind of evolution then?
I think that saying there is a dialogue between what we call culture and civilization, and building bridges between what we call Western world, which is based on Judeo-Christian values, and Eastern or Islamic world. I think this has to be followed by a speech, an approach which is not politically correct. That means saying the truth, telling the truth, even always with charity. Something has to be reformed. It is necessary that all religion accept others and they believe in the civil rights to all. Now, saying because you have a number of people, they can withdraw or what we call overcome, and they have terrorists among them. They will put light of a kind of threat to our civilization. That's not the way to deal with such a sad reality, and not the way to help our grandchildren in the future.
So you don't sound very optimistic despite these Arab revolts so far. You don't think that fundamentally the situation of Christians in the Middle East has changed tangibly so far?
Not till now, although, as I said, our vocation is to keep witnessing to the message of love and charity, and to be open to all.
Okay, we'll have to end it there. Thank you very much for being our guest on the interview, Ignaz Youssef III Younan, the Syriac Catholic Patriarch of Antioch. And that's all for this edition of The Interview.